does a little bit different than the before. And oh my god, I might like this more than I like Fanta, and I love Fanta. I mean, we've talked about this before, but before we get into that, um, wanted to bring up. I know it's been a month or so since we had Northern Soda Co. For those that are new or kind of forgot, Northern Soda Co. is a soft drink shop located in New Brighton, right off of 35W there, and essentially County Road D West. Kind of what's that? Lake Johanna. So like just if you're looking at a map, just west of Lake Johanna there in New Brighton. Once again, have still made the effort to go out there. Still on my list. Excuse me. Of things to do and places to go. I have family and some friends that have gone to it before, and they love it. They swear by it. One of the things I'm actually looking most forward to, I'm hoping, fingers crossed, to get out there before the holidays because they have one of those. You're able to go there. I don't know exactly how much it is, but you're able to go there and those like 24-pack cartons that you can get at like Costco when you do your shopping and stuff like that. You can take one of those and essentially grab from all their different flavors and make your own 24-pack, which for somebody that loves these sodas sounds like the best idea possible. You can have as many, like I said, you can have as many of the Minnesota apples you want, as many as the cherry citruses as you want, as many of the pontoon punches, all these flavors, and really, really cool stuff. So, yeah, and I was looking up because they have a little bit of a tidbit, just like a lot of the other places we do on the website. It straight and simple to the point, 1950s classic orange soda, gently carbonated, caffeine free. Couldn't have said it better myself. And yeah, I've always loved like the grape sodas and the orange sodas. This has to be one of my favorites. And it amazes me. It tastes exactly like it. We've talked about this before. Cane sugar is technically supposed to be, again, it's still sugar. It's not like it's a prebiotic or a vitamin necessarily, but it's supposed to be the healthier version to the artificial sweeteners or the artificial sugars and all that kind of shit that's out there. Um, so I really like it. This has probably got to be one of my favorite. I don't know. And we've done a lot of different orange drinks on the podcast. Yeah, we did Buddies, which I think I liked, but I wasn't crazy about. Hands down, I think I would rather have this over Fanta between you and me. I really like this. This one's so far for me. As much as I love Black Cherry, I don't remember being super high on it, but this one, as well as the Sunday Purple, I have to go back and I'll get back to you guys on numbers and everything like that. This and Sunday Purple have to be one and two, one way or the other for me. Very, very good sodas. Um, Check them out. I understand not the orange, and I'm not like a lot of people. The orange sodas and the grape sodas aren't well liked amongst everybody. But yeah, I really like it. Go check it out. For those that do know about them, let us know what we should try next. I obviously have a list of the rest to do, and then also for those that already know them, stay in contact on their website, northernsodaco.com. Usually, the last year or two that I've followed them and have been aware of them, they usually release kind of a fun holiday drink around the holidays. Obviously, it's not even, it's barely November, so it hasn't been announced yet. But for those that are interested in that, we will try to keep you updated. Or, like I said, check out their website as well. And per usual, you can check them out on Facebook and Instagram as well. And for those that are interested in going and visiting to them, their hours usually vary based off of holidays and stuff like that. But typically, it looks like they're closed Mondays and Tuesdays. Wednesdays through Fridays are open 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturdays 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. and then Sundays noon to 6. They have a bunch of different events that they do and all that kind of fun stuff. So I urge you guys to go check them out. Definitely on my not even bucket list, just list of things to do before we get too crazy into the holidays. So if you go sometime by the end of the month, maybe I'll run into you. So Yeah, that's what we got for you guys today. And then I'm just gonna be perfectly honest and upfront with you guys this week about Tommie Town and all this kind of stuff. We're gonna be spending just a little bit less time this week on hockey and football, simply because college basketball just started up, guys. As you guys know, basketball, hockey, the four core sports are my favorites. Nothing against hockey, nothing against football, college football, and hockey. Anyways, college basketball just can't start up, so I want to spend just a little bit more time on them as we have with our other sports. So, like I said, just transparency up front. So, yeah, that's what we got for you guys. Starting off for the men's hockey team, they are coming off of a series sweep with the Augustana Vikings. Excuse me, winning on this last Friday night 4-0, and the first shutout of the year and first shutout I think of the Division One era, and then fell in a close one too. The second night, never having a lead in that game, and they take a 2-4-1 record going into their home and home series this upcoming weekend against the Minnesota State Mavericks. A little bit less than ideal, obviously, against a team like Augustana, not to throw shade at them, but you obviously would have liked to have gotten two wins against them. Pretty impressive that in that second game, both of their goals came on special teams. Like I said, they traded goals back and forth and they never led, but they were able to tie the game up at 1 from a power play goal from Ryan O'Neal, and then tied the game up at 2 later in the second period by a shorthanded goal from Liam Malmquist before the Vikings would ultimately score the game-winning goal. About a little over 8 minutes into the third period. So that's what we have for them for their home and home series with the Mankato State Mavericks. They'll be at the St. Thomas Ice Arena on Friday at 7:07, and then they will be in Mankato the next night on Saturday at 6:07 p.m. So good luck to the men's hockey teams. For the women's team, so every single time we do a podcast, this happens. There's one thing that you. All right. For the women's team, coming off of a little bit of a different story, as they got swept by the Ohio State Buckeyes. But the second game, they were able to play them very, very, very close. Obviously, like a lot of people that follow women's college hockey, the Buckeyes came into this last weekend ranked number 2 nationally, which is kind of a big deal. And the first night, they just got, they were just outplayed by, as much as you hate to admit it, a better team, losing 1-5 at home. Once again, kind of similar to the men's team and similar to this women's team, even in losses this season, they were able to jump out to an early 1-0 lead. However, that lead only held up for like 15 seconds before the Buckeyes would tie things up and then go on to score 5 unanswered goals. But then, I'm not kidding, I was just as surprised when I was checking on the score on Saturday, the second. They lost 1-0 in overtime. Danny Strome, made 39 saves in the effort. So really, really remarkable there. And then for the girls, it's one of those things where despite this sweep from the Buckeyes, one of the top teams in the nation right now, they still hold a 4-5-1 record going into their upcoming series with Lindenwood this upcoming weekend, which is not a bad position to be in. They hold a 4-2 record all time against Lindenwood. Actually winning the last 4 after losing the first 2. So really have an opportunity this upcoming weekend to get back above 500 and go a 6-4-1. Obviously, gotta beat the team ahead of you in one game at a time. The women's team will actually be a game ahead of the men's team, so they will be playing tomorrow night, Thursday, November 7th at 7 p.m. They'll be hosting Lindenwood, and then the second game will be at 2 p.m. on Friday, the 8th. So that's what we have for the women's team. Best of luck to them, and hopefully they can, like I said, go off here. I mean, I look at their schedule, and before we move on, they really have a chance to kind of really, really do what they did at the beginning of the season, losing, was that 4 straight? They really have, being down 4-5-1, 9 games into the season, or 10 games into the season, not the end of the world, but really are in a position that if they can capitalize on these next 4 games, could really put themselves in a position where they'd be 8-5-1 heading into big games against Wisconsin, and then there's Nashville showcase in Tennessee, and then kind of getting into the thick of things in the WCHA play as they got 2 games against Lindenwood, and then they got Bemidji State, who they've had their number similar like Lindenwood's as well these last couple years too. So once again, best of luck to them, and hopefully they can keep the ball rolling there. And then for the football teams, the Tommies suffered their first Pioneer Football League loss, of the season, snapping their, 4 game winning streak, and really a tough game for them to lose. Obviously, you look at the standings, and this Morehead State team came into this matchup 5-3 overall. Don't really know off the top of my head who they played non-conference. But conference-wise, Drake's 5-0 heading into this upcoming week. Morehead's 4-1, and we're 4-1. So, once again, kind of halfway through the season, kind of coming down to these critical games. They're putting themselves in a position where they're not necessarily in the driver's seat, because now they obviously have an important homecoming game coming up against Drake here this upcoming weekend. But they obviously have to beat Drake and then continue to win and hope somebody can help them out with Morehead State and perhaps Drake as well too, if they can't get things done this upcoming weekend. Drake was actually the one team I thought would probably have an opportunity to beat them. So I think, unfortunately, after this Drake game, with still having 2 games left, I think this is a make or break game. It's their homecoming game. They should have some extra motivation, all that fun stuff. But I really do think with 3 games left, your only hope to get some help down the stretch and to win the Pioneer Football League again, or have a shot at it, is you got to beat Drake. And then you got to hope that one of the last couple teams beats Morehead State, because at this rank, Morehead State, they can't tie with Morehead State, because Morehead State would have the tiebreaker and would technically be 1A versus St. Thomas's 1B. So really unfortunate. Before we get into the Gophers weekend, just kind of quickly going over this game. St. Thomas, just other than that first quarter, just wasn't really to get much going. Hope Adebayo obviously had another big game, 142 yards on the day. Tatioka, I swear I butchered his name the first time I ever seen that. I tried to say it. 126 yards through the air. For him, not a great game, or not a terrible game, but at the same time, you still want to, if you're going to put yourself in a position to win, you definitely want to be trying to pass for more than 142 yards a game, especially, in Division One, whether it's FCS or FBS. But yeah, because once again, this game was dominated by the Tommies rushing. And then, on the other side of things too, the Tommies were 0 for 1. I mean, this is the biggest thing that I saw came away with it. We were 0 for 1 on red zone opportunities, where Morehead State was 2 for 3. So if you take that out of consideration, that's a 7-7 game. That's a 7-7 game. And anything can happen in that. Obviously, it was away, so you don't have the comfort of playing at your home stadium, but really, really tough loss. And with only a couple of games to play, really hope that they can beat Drake this upcoming weekend at O'Shaughnessy Stadium, 1 o'clock kickoff time. So good luck to them, and hopefully they can, end the season on a strong note, winning 3 straight and putting themselves in a position to possibly have a share at the Pioneer Football League title, or something like that. So best of luck to them. And then this Minnesota Gopher football team, they Man, they're on a roll too. They went into Illinois this last week and beating the Fighting Illini 25-17. It was a pretty back and forth game in the first half before the Gophers just kind of ran away with it in the second half. Dag and Kesh connected on 3 field goals to give them a 13-10 lead going into halftime. But it was really that fourth quarter after Illinois took a brief 17-16 lead that the Gophers just finished the game with 9 unanswered points to solidify the win against. I mean, shit, they were 24 in the nation, so this is technically their 4th game against a nationally ranked team. Obviously 2-2, but they played Michigan really close. They beat USC. But yeah, it's interesting because I think I remember when we were talking with Sam 2, maybe 3 weeks ago, talking about that, if they were able to beat Illinois, I think there's a legitimate case that they should be in the top 25. Not necessarily super high, but somewhere in the top 25. But they're not. And I'm sure that has to do with the fact that, they played an egg against Iowa. They played UCLA probably closer than they should have. Lost to a North Carolina team that they should have beat. I don't know, but all I know for sure, I don't really have too much faith that they can beat Penn State by in a couple weeks here on the 23rd. But if they do, there's no reason they shouldn't be in the top 25. But again, baby steps. They got Rutgers this upcoming weekend. They have to travel to Rutgers, which should make for an interesting and fun road trip for them, and can't wait to see if they can make it 5 straight. I mean, again, if they can run the table, this would go back to a very similar successful season like 2019. If they were to run the table, they would finish 9-3 overall, and 7-2 in conference play with legit. And again, should they beat Penn State and then go on to beat Wisconsin, I don't think there's an argument you can make that why they should be a top 15 team. But again, baby steps. This is definitely the Sam optimism side of me talking, and not my side of me, because realistically, I could very much at this point with they've surprised me with kind of staying consistent these last couple of weeks, so I could very well see them finishing the season. 8-4, and 6-3 in conference, losing to Penn State. Penn State just looks really good this year. They look really good and put together. And I think this Gophers team is going to need something close to a miracle like they did back in 2019 to beat this Penn State team. So should be fun. But once again, you got to beat the teams that are ahead of you. Got to take care of Rutgers first. They don't have a ton of lines and stuff for FCS games, but coming into this game, Minnesota is actually, despite being the away team, are 6-point favorites in this game. And truthfully, this Rutgers team is 4-4, 1 in first play. They're coming into this game completely opposite, losing their last 4 games. They got killed last week by USC 20-42. The week before that, they lost a close one at home against UCLA 30, and then lost to Wisconsin and Nebraska. So, this should be a game for the Gophers to kind of get their swagger back, getting things going into their bye weekend. Then after this, then Penn State. We're just going to have to wait and see what happens. But if this team plays like the last couple of weeks, I have no doubt in my mind that this should be at least a 14-point game in favor of the Gophers. So that's what we have essentially for hockey and football this weekend. Before we dive into college basketball, I'm going to give you guys our college football Week 11 picks. So the first game I actually like is Colorado and Texas Tech, over 62.5 points. I think there's no lying in this one. I think this game features 2 very good offenses. The only difference is Tech cannot play defense. With that said, I think we're going to potentially see one of the highest scoring combined games between opponents this year in this game. Both these QBs can sling the ball, and we know Travis Hunter is a dog. And then as a receiver, and then on the other side of the ball, I think outside of Travis Hunter as a defensive back, I think this will be another college football game that defense is just completely optional. So it'll be interesting to see just how high it can go. But once again, like I said, I like Colorado, Texas Tech to go over 62.5 points. My second pick I got for you guys, I like Vanderbilt as plus 3.5 point underdogs at home against South Carolina. Look, I know South Carolina's coming off of a huge win at home against Texas A&M, but thinking back to that game and kind of getting ready for the podcast, that game took them a lot of heart and a lot of effort to win. And get that. I see this as a letdown spot for them. If I'm being completely honest for the Gamecocks. I look at this Vandy team, and honestly, they have been consistent showing up after big wins week after week this year. And they're coming off of a big win at Auburn. So I think the Commodores QB continues to stay hot in this one, and this team wins by probably at least a touchdown if I'm being completely honest with you guys. So Vanderbilt plus 3.5 against South Carolina. And then last but not least, I don't know if you guys have been noticing this, but I kind of like to stay away from the powerhouses at Alabama's, Texas's, Tennessee's, Georgia's. But I saw this line and I just couldn't not take it this week. So my third and final one I got for you guys this week is Georgia at minus 2.5 at Ole Miss. Wrapping up this for you guys before we get into college basketball. I'm just going to keep this one pretty simple for you guys. Kirby Smart only loses to Alabama. If you look at their schedules since the start of the 2021 season, Kirby Smart and this Georgia Bulldogs team have only 3 losses in 21, 22, 23, and now 24. All 3 of them at the hands of Alabama. You guessed it. I really do like Jackson Dart. I think he's one of the top quarterbacks in the nation this year. But I think this Georgia defense is just too good. I think will ultimately be too much for Dart. Kind of similar to that Vandy game. I think despite the close, it's because it's at Ole Miss, I'm guessing. Because of the close line, I would not be surprised if this was a double-digit effort for Georgia. So those are my 3 picks I got for you guys. Colorado, Texas Tech over 62.5 points. Vandy as 3.5 point underdogs to South Carolina, and then Georgia as 2.5 point favorites at Ole Miss. So yeah, like I mentioned already, Wednesday, November 6th. Can't believe we're already, damn near a week into November. Time has literally been flying by, guys. It's insane. College hockey's back, and in mid-season form practically. College basketball's back. We're gonna blink and it's gonna be fucking March Madness. But yeah, both the Tommie's men and women's basketball teams got things underway on the 4th. It seemed like most of the teams in Division I got things kicked off on Monday the 4th. Some teams didn't play until today or Tuesday. But it seemed like a lot of them started off on Monday, which is pretty crazy. But both teams came away victorious. The St. Thomas men's team handled the North Central Rams from Minnesota in a 96-71 affair. Meanwhile, the women's team had a really good dogfight win, 84-81 in overtime. Jade Hill was unbelievable in the game, and yeah, we're gonna get to a little bit of both of them right now. So, like I said, I think the biggest thing for me looking at this Tommy team, I wasn't able to watch either game live, but looking at the box score, I'm a little bit amazed. I don't think I realized how many guys we were graduating this last year, because I'm looking at these guys and there's just so many new names. Miles Barnstable, Nolan Minnesale, Drake Dobbs, Carter Bierke, Kendall Blue are like the 3 guys I know are coming back. But then you got Ben Oosterbaan, a freshman who got a double-double in his first collegiate game, 14 points, 10 rebounds. It'll be really interesting to see how this team kind of plays this year, who gets the big minutes. Obviously, a guy like Kendall Blue and Drake Dobbs are probably going to be your, Parker Bjorklunds, your solid guys that you're going to rely on in crunch time and things like that. But once again, I mean, I think it's this. I mean, yeah, Nolan started the game for the Tommies, and then Ben Oosterbaan was a six-man coming off the bench. Both of them are freshmen, and if they keep up this level of play, Nolan Minnesale in 30 minutes finished with 14 points on 6 of 12 shooting. Fortunately, was 0 for 3 from three-point range. So, I mean, you take that away. Kid shot 6 from 9 from the field with 14 points, 3 rebounds, and 2 assists, 2 blocks, and a steal. And then the other big freshman, like I mentioned, that had a really good game, Ben Oosterbaan, 19 minutes off the bench, finished with 14 points on a 4 of 5 from the field, one of one from three-point land, and made 5 of 6 free throws. Also, like I said, double-double, 10 rebounds, 1 assist, and 1 steal. So, I mean, yeah, I think taking a look at some of these team stats and bench points 27. I mean, I look at bench points. Excuse me, North Central got 27 bench points, pretty good. But for the Tommies, thanks to the likes of Ben Oosterbaan and Ryan Dufault, who combined for 26, they got 39 points off the bench, 22 fast break points, 20 for North Central. So again, I think the big thing for this Tommies team this year, kind of reading into them, seeing what they're all about, I think is going to be important for them to play with the lead, just because they have so many new faces this year that they didn't have last year. So I think it'll be interesting to see what happens. And like I said, they played with the lead for most of the game. They trailed early on, but then once they took yes, so once the Tommies got a free throw to go up 14-13 with 47 less in the first half, never looked back. So it helped that they were able to play ahead and not get behind the 8 ball. But should be a fun season. I'm excited to see how this younger team can do. Tower's got his son, Luke Tower, on the team. Should be fun to see how that plays out. They will be next up on Friday the 8th at Green Bay. So at 6 p.m. So good luck to them. And then, like I said, Jade Hill for the women's team, senior guard, had a game. Tommies were able to get out to an early lead, took a 25-16 lead into the second quarter. But other than that, was a pretty back and forth game. Jade Hill came up big at the end of the fourth quarter to force overtime. And then even at the beginning of overtime, they found themselves down, and Jade Hill once again was at the thick of things, making sure the Tommies were going to come away victorious. Girl finished with not only a game high, but set the Tommies' single game scoring record in this one with 35 points, shooting 12 for 21 from the floor. Unfortunately, she was only able to make 2 of 6 3-pointers, but she shot 9 of 12 free throws, unbelievably. Also finished with 2 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks, and 2 steals. So got things done in every facet of the game. Sammy Opachuk finished the game with a double-double, 12 points, 13 rebounds. Was also big everywhere else, 2 blocks, 3 assists. And yeah, once again, this was a big team effort. This game saw 10 different lead changes and 7 scoring ties, so it was very much a back and forth game once Milwaukee was able to get back into the thick of things in the second quarter. Um, and really, it was, you really saw this Tommie team kind of playing from behind or kind of really going back and forth after that first quarter. In the second, third, and fourth quarters, Milwaukee outscored them all three quarters. So St. Thomas really had to dig down deep with Jade Hill there, who was obviously feeling herself and had a career game and unbelievable. Can't wait to see what she does this year. But you have to think that this is a good start for them. I posted a recap for this game a couple days ago, or just yesterday after it happened. And, for a team, like, this is their first season opening win of their small, deep sample size. But really good to get it off their back. I mean, I look at the last couple of years. Last year, they went 15 and 16, 22 to 23. They went 13 to 17. So I think as much as, we usually typically talk about in sports, it's not about how you start. It's more about how you finish to kind of get into, postseason and making your season worthwhile. I think when you're still new to this whole thing, the Division One era, I think it's important how you start too. Because if you're able to get a couple of these games under your belt and kind of get your confidence going, I could very well see them starting 2-0 right now, and in a position where they're not necessarily playing with a losing record for most of the year. But once again, just like the men's team, it'll be a fun year. I could potentially see. If I'm being completely honest, I think I probably have more confidence in this women's team early on in the season, anyways. Just from the standpoint of this team is bringing back a lot of talent from last year. Again, they kind of struggled in games last year against big powerhouse teams, but they have girls that are battle tested, that have been there, done that, and are going to get them points. Not that I don't have confidence in the men's team. There's just so many new faces that it's a matter of, okay, obviously when you lose a guy like Parker Bjorklund, where does that usage go? Are you relying more on 6 guys and having Oosterbaan playing a lot more minutes? So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. And just like anything, I mean, you have a handful of games here. Both teams have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games, before December 1st, December 2nd. So by the time you kind of get into that, the Big Sky Summit League Challenge, you'll kind of already start to see the identity of these teams and how they're going to be going. And yeah, like I said, it should be really, really fun. So yeah, can't wait to see how the season pans out for them. Excuse me. And then for our professional sports, one of the things I actually wanted to talk about, because it kind of ties in nicely with what Dan and I talked about a couple weeks ago on the NHL preview podcast, is some of the changes. So I actually was reading an article, came out the same night as, or the same, not the night, the morning of when college basketball started. And it was essentially about what's coming up here and what's at stake at the next NHLPA collective bargaining agreement talks. So essentially, the current CBA is through next season, but just like every other league, I think they start having conversations and trying to negotiate something the year before it, so that you can implement it right away. You don't have to have a lockout. And similar to kind of like what we were talking about, we didn't talk about a lot of this stuff, but one of these 3 things I'm going to bring up is something that Dan and I talked about in our the preview podcast, and it seems like the consensus around the NHLPA, the 3 main things that they want addressed are money, obviously, schedule, and then playoff format. So I think, just starting off with the main one, money. The article says it's, not that they're looking to get paid MLB money, but they're looking for more of the pie. It says right here, the Tampa Bay Lightning in 2010 was bought for a reported $93 million. Vinnick, the gentleman who bought them, recently sold a majority stake of the team, which is now valuated at $1.8 billion per Sportico. Meanwhile, players' salaries have largely remained stagnant. The example here is Florida Panthers star Matthew Tkachuk has a cap hit of $9.5 million, is roughly the same as when his father Keith Tkachuk was what he was making in the 99-2000 season for the Blues, which was actually $10 million. Right now, the NHL and NHLPA currently have a 50-50 split on hockey-related revenue and the salary cap, which is calculated based off, a lot of, bigger jumps for the next couple seasons for everything. Coming out, the article goes on to say, obviously, coming out of COVID was tough for the league and all those kinds of things, but look for, this to be a big talking point. But then, like I said, I was not all that surprised. But it said here, and it's really, really nice to see. It says a handful of players want to change the playoff format to a typical 1-through-8 seeding by conference. It says a lot of guys quoted. One player anonymously said, "A lot of guys would like to see that change, myself included." According to sources, there have never been substantive discussions about that at the Board of Governors meetings, but the league believes that the format is strong and that the Stanley Cup playoffs are the best postseason in sports. It would have to be a major sticking point for the players to get addressed. And from what I've read in this article, it seems like it is a big point. And I'm not going to read off everything in the article, but it seems like there's a consensus about a lot of the players, what Dan and I were talking about, in the sense that, look, if you're a Wild player, we're playing, the St. Louis Blues, we're playing the Dallas Stars, we're playing the Colorado Avalanche, 6-7 times a year. They're the three teams we don't want to see right away in the playoffs. Like, that's like, if you're 1-through-8 and you draw them, fine, whatever. But I think I speak for a lot of the players. The players speak a lot about this, and I think it just goes to show that playoffs were more like, Dan brought up a good point. He thinks, the big part is because of, they won all these, they won all these rivalries and all those things. And it's like, you get that, and you'll get that, especially if the teams are playing well too. But it would just be nice to see them go back to a conventional way, 1-through-8. I think having to play out of your division is kind of stupid, and I'm glad to see some of the players kind of acknowledging that. And then the schedule. This is a big one. It sounds like, one of the most intriguing topics is expected to be discussed on the schedule. Things like eliminating the 3-day Christmas break to reconsidering the way out of division games are scheduled. Restructuring preseason became a hot topic after some injuries this last year. One idea floated, trimming the preseason in favor of adding 2 games to the regular season, things like that. So it should be interesting to see what happens. But on the topic of hockey, the Minnesota Wild are playing some very, very good hockey right now. 12 games in the season, they're getting great goaltending, which I will be the first to admit did not see coming from Philip Gustafsson. Already has 6 wins on the season, a 9.17 save percentage, 2.33 goals against average, playing very, very well. And who would have thought 12 games into the season, the Wild would only have 2 regulation losses? So, essentially what that means is 14 games, 12 games in the season, the Wild have gotten at least 1 point in 10 of their first 12 games, which is exceptional. Again, you hope they can keep up some consistency in this. Obviously, injuries play a big part throughout the season, so you hope this team can just stay somewhat healthy and have no more than a guy or 2 out here and there. But I think the biggest takeaway for me so far through this early part of the season is they're getting things done from the majority of the people you would expect them to get it done. Whereas, like I talked about, I expected to see guys like, Lake Up, does Damian Hunt, Declan Chisholm, Marat, Liam Holmgren to be kind of contributing more. And that just hasn't been the case. Kirill, Oli, Zuccarello, and Rossi are 1, 2, 3, 4 in points, respectively. And then in goals, same kind of thing. Kirill, Boldy, Zuccarello, Eriksson, and Marco Rossi are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, respectively, too. So it's you obviously want to see that trickle down effect. Obviously, you want to see guys like Kirill, Kaprizov, Matt Boldy, Eriksson, and Marco Rossi, the stars on the team, getting those goals. It kind of gets everybody going and the juice is flowing. But at some point, you do need some of these guys to step up, because as much as Kirill and Boldy and these guys have the ability to score 50 goals, you don't necessarily want to put the pressure on them that they have to score 50 goals, please. Hey, you want to show these guys, hey, we can get scoring from all different levels of play here. So playing some really good hockey so far, and cannot wait to see this team as the season goes on. Like I said, knock on wood, hopefully they can stay healthy. So onward and upward. For the Timberwolves, man, I can't. Y'all gotta chill on the Timberwolves. Y'all really have to chill. I know Oklahoma City is 7-0 coming into tonight. And I don't think anybody said that Oklahoma City was going to be bad. But I think a lot of you fans out there that are talking about, gosh, oh my gosh, they're 4-3. They're not looking good. Rah, 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 rah. I think a lot of you need to realize that this is a very good team. They're very talented, and they're still trying to find their rotation. They're still trying to find, how to play together and how to do all these different things. So be patient, give it some time. Like, despite not having everything set in stone, playing perfectly, cohesively, playing together as a unit. I mean, you look at the stats, and you're playing the guys you expect them to play the majority of the minutes. But it's different. Julius Randle's new to the roster. Dante DiVincenzo's new to the roster. Minot has been playing a little bit here and there too. Joe Ingles, and they're new to the roster too. And not only that, but then you got your stars like Anthony Edwards, Nasri. Even though you have practice, you're still learning, hey, what are some of the tendencies? Like, it was easy last year because the core group of guys, Nas, Cat, and Connolly, Jade McDaniels, Rudy Gobert, had all been together for a couple years. They haven't been together all that long, so be patient with this team. Like, this team still has the ability to win 50-plus games. Like I said, you just have to have a little grace. This team is going to be just fine. I'm not concerned too much about this team. Now, I'll be the first to admit, we have there's no reason in the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we got 12 games from now until the end of the month. If for some reason we go 6-6 in those games, I will be the first to admit that, okay, maybe something in this team isn't going as well as I thought it was going to go. But we got Portland 3 times in 4 games. We got Toronto again. We got Houston again. We have 3 games against LA. I mean, a game against Chicago. Be patient with this team. They're going to win a lot of games, and they're going to be very good. We just need to have grace for them and just watch them play. They're going to ball out. And I think once we start giving some more minutes to Dillingham and Sharp Jr., I think everything's going to look awesome. So, like I said, be patient. It's going to be a fun season. Tomorrow night, Thursday the 7th, they'll be in Chicago for a 7 o'clock game before flying back home to host Portland. First time for the first game in 4 total games. Sunday, November 10th, they will be hosting Miami. And then Tuesday, November 12th, they will be in Portland for a late game. And those are the 4 games that they will have in the next week before we are on next. So that is what we got for the Timberwolves. And then as for our beloved Vikings, look, that Colts game was not pretty. I get it. It was not a pretty game. But a win is a win. And I think very similar to what I was just kind of talking about with the Timberwolves. I think a lot of these fans that are talking, gosh, we're 6-2. We're not far from being 5-3. 2-game losing streak. We barely beat the Colts. I think, again, there needs to be some grace given for this Vikings team. There were so many people that, Vikings fans included, that had us going 0-5, like 1-4, like 2-4 in our first 5-6 games. So to be able to be in a position where we won 6 of our first 8 games, like sure, I'll be the first to admit that Rams game, we let that game go. Again, we didn't lose because of the face mask, but we let that game go. There were other moments in that game that we could have done differently and could have affected the outcome of that game, and it just didn't happen. And you got to move on from that. You got to learn from that. And I think in this Colts game, you saw a little bit of rust and not playing great in the first half, but we came alive in the second half, got our juices going. Got the win on prime time, Sunday Night Football. Rebounded after that tough Thursday night loss in LA. But hey, like I said, Hawkinson's back. This offense is going to get rolling. You're going to see, I mean, I wrote it down here somewhere. Here it is. I mean, Darnold's going to continue to keep throwing the ball around, just distributing it to everybody. Now that Hawkins is back, he's going to be doing it even more. Coming into this upcoming game, he already has 5 receivers or backs that have at least 14 catches, and he's got 4 receivers backs with at least 235 receiving yards, and at least 4 of them that have 2 TD catches or more. None of them are TJ Hawkinson. So, we've seen some drives kind of run stagnant because they doubled JJ and because Jordan Addison hasn't seen a ball and, super recently. They doubled JJ. We throw to him and, he's not in his rhythm. He misses it. Okay, now we got a punt. And then vice versa. Stuff like that. So I think with Hawkinson back, it really opens up everything. It's going to get more touches to JJ. It's going to get him more touches. It's going to get Addison more touches. It's going to get Munt more touches. Jones, all these guys, and it's going to click and it's going to be fun. And I think this is the time that you want to get excited about because we're entering arguably our easiest part of our schedule. Jaguars are dog shit. The Titans are dog shit. I'm going to come out and say the Bears are dog shit. Their record tells you they're not dog shit, but they're 4-4. They have not beaten a single good team. They beat a Titans team whose ass. They beat the Rams before they were fully healthy. They beat a Panthers team who was ass. Then they beat the Jaguars who are ass. I will give they lost to the Texans who are a very good team. They lost to the Colts who are not a good team. They lost to the Commanders who are a good team. And they lost to the Cardinals team who's actually playing better than people thought they were going to play. And I get this sense that Chicago team is already seeing what Jayden Daniels is doing. Probably already feeling, fuck, we made it a bad decision yet again. So, I mean, this, again, have grace. This Vikings team is in a really good position to potentially be 1-2-3. A really good position to potentially be 9-3, maybe even 9-2, even 10-2 in the next 3-4 games. So, again, be patient with the team. And again, this was a team that a lot of people had as not even making the playoffs. With how things are going, this team will make the playoffs. And we also need to start getting the appropriate calls from the refs too, but that's neither here nor there. So, yeah, why don't we just kind of get into things with you guys for here then. So, I think, again, coming into this Jaguars game, it's away. This is the first of a 1-2-3 game road trip. We're plus 4.5 or minus 4.5 favorites in Jacksonville. Jacksonville started off 2-7. So just starting off, I'm going to take the Vikings against the spread in this game. I think this has the potential to be our biggest winning margin yet. And yes, believe me, I do know that we beat the Texans by 27 points. Coming into this game, it's worth noting the Jaguars are the second worst team in the league in total yards given up on average with 389. 7.3 yards of offense given up per game, only behind the Panthers, and are also second worst in passing yards given up per game in 264.3 per game. Additionally, they're also giving up the second most points per game as well, with 28 points per game. And to put those numbers in perspective, the Vikings were still only sixth in the league with giving up the least amount of points, with 18.8 points currently. So, yeah, I think going back on it, I think this is a great game for us. I think they're with their run defense pretty respectable, and their front four kind of solid. I think if we can start the game up by throwing a lot and making them kind of back up and kind of opening the run game up, that can do wonders. And I think if we're able to pass effectively and open up the run game both by the first half, this thing could legitimately get ugly, even though it's in Jacksonville. Trevor Lawrence, coming into this game, has had a very poor season. It has a lot of people thinking, even if he has a minor injury, put him on the IR. Get rid of him, sit him, whatever. Anthony Richardson and playing, at this point, this team needs to be playing for draft position. You're 2-7 in the AFC South. Looking up at Tennessee, who's 2-6, but Indianapolis is 4-5, and Houston 6-3. So, again, this isn't me saying, "Oh, over, let us kill you guys." But yeah, I mean, like I said, let's keep in mind Hawkins is back. I have a feeling they're going to start. They'll probably start the game by doubling JJ, like most people do. And by doing that, they're going to leave guys like Addison, Hawkinson, Naylor, and our backs in one-on-one positions. And then hopefully, you get the balls to your playmakers, the Hawkinsons, the Nailers, the Addisons. Then they realize, okay, we can't double cover JJ. We got to put focus on these other guys too. So it should be a fun game. And I think this is going to be a good game for them to get their confidence up. I got us winning a rout, 38-17. And then for my lock of the week, I like the Buffalo Bills. They're only 4.5-point favorites, but against the Colts. But I think that's because they're in Indianapolis. Look, I really believe the Bills can steamroll Indianapolis with the running game, as James Cook and Davis can get hot to support Josh Allen's running and powerful scrambling ability. The Colts are struggling right now, giving up big passing plays against big arm QBs. We saw it with Sam Darnold. And I look at a guy like Jonathan Taylor as really the only way this Colts team can hang around in this game, and I don't see that being much of a factor. Especially once they start getting to Flacco. So I got the Bills winning this one comfortably, 28-13. And then for my upset, I like Pittsburgh as 3-point favorites or 3-point underdogs over Washington Commanders. And look, I'm sure a lot of you guys, Jack, you've been so high on the Commanders and Jaden Daniels this year. And yeah, I have. But I think this could be a good spot where they just slip up. Even good young teams slip up and lose games here and there. But we have to remember, each game presents its own challenges and differences. If they're about to take on a Steelers team that's fresh off their bye week and have been playing some really, really strong, really solid team football lately, we've seen Pittsburgh thrive all year in the second half of games where they've pulled away from their opposition with a plus 76 point differential. Meanwhile, Washington is currently ranking 21st in the league in second half points allowed with 12.7. That coupled with Pittsburgh owning a 4-0 straight up and against the spread record in their last 4 games. Post-bye, I just really like this as an upset, so I'm taking the Steelers in a close one, 28-24. And then, yeah, I think, both predictions for the game. I think offensively, I think we rush for 2 TDs. In this game, like I said, I really think the game is going to go. If you're Kevin O'Connell, you got to be thinking this team gives up a lot of passing yards. They're solid with the run. We can't start with the run. We got to start with the pass. And I think you do that, and you kind of play that complementary football. You use play action, you get your backs out, you run the ball effectively. Cam Akers and Aaron Jones these last two games have really looked like a really solid 1A, 1B push. And they kind of have similar traits, but are still different backs and kind of do different things and stuff like that. So it should be a fun game. So like I said, offensively, I think we're going to rush for at least 2 touchdowns, for sure 2, possibly more. Then on the defensive side of things, I think this could be a big game for us to get back into the thick of things with one of our bold predictions we're about to check in on here in a minute. But I see us coming up with at least 4 turnovers in the form of interceptions and fumbles. This team has been good. They're playing against a bad team. So, yeah, this now has brought us to we're about a little over halfway through the season. 9 weeks into the season, going into week 10. So I thought we would just check in on, because I had some people kind of asking on our bold predictions. So the first one we had was Sam Darnold was going to throw for 4,000 passing yards. And I think he's still very well on track for this. I think we talked about this in the football preview podcast. So with the 17th game now for 4,000 yards, not that it's super easy, but the QBs only need to average 236 passing yards a game to reach that feat. But to put that in perspective, entering week 10 of this season, there are 14 players averaging that or more, and Darnold is one of them. He's actually currently on pace right now to throw for 4,038 yards and only needs to average a little less than he's already doing at 234 yards per game. So honestly, at this point, I'm not too worried about him not hitting this number. I think he should be able to do it. And I think having all of these stars to throw to will be fun for him and just really awesome. And yeah, like I said, fun to see. And another big thing to note, in fact, in his first 8 games, he's only failed to throw for at least 210 yards twice. So no, he's not throwing for 4 or 5, 600 yards, but he's staying consistent, throwing between 210 and 290 yards for 6 of his first 8 games with a brand new team that he's never played with before. Second bold prediction, if I'm going to be honest with you guys, this is the one I'm probably the most worried about. Our second one was Dallas Turner was going to lead rookies in sacks and win Defensive Rookie of the Year. And part of the reason I'm worried about this is because he simply just hasn't played a ton of snaps through the first 8 games. Now, that isn't necessarily indicative of him. It's more, we just have so many other veterans that have stepped up in big ways that you don't want to take reps away from those guys. But he got in some big plays and looked amazing in the game against Colts. So I anticipate him getting more of a workload going forward. Excuse me. But at the same time, with 9 games still left to play, he's not far away from it. Through the Vikings' first 8 games, he's only been active for 7 of them, and he's only had snaps in 4 of those 7 games. Now, one of those games was against Indianapolis. Like I said, Indy looked awesome. I anticipate him getting more opportunities from there. And it's also worth noting, like I said, leading rookies in sacks. He's one of, I think the list was 15 players, and he's one of 11 or 12 rookies with at least 1 sack. And the leading guy, something Curse, I want to say his name was, on the Rams, and he's only got 3.5. So not to say he's going to just magically get 3 sacks in this next game against Jaguars. He very well could if he gets the reps, the opportunities. But the bottom line is he's still got a lot of time to go. He's a freak of nature athlete, and it should be fun to see what he's going to do. And then lastly, Vikings, we said, was going to finish in the top 10 in the turnover difference. And we talked about it earlier in the season. If this continues to go, this is going to be a big reason for why they win games. Right now, we're right there. Literally. We have the second most takeaways in the NFL right now with 17. Only the Packers have more, 19. We have the most interceptions in the NFL with 13. The next team only has 10. but unfortunately, we are tied with the fourth most giveaways with 13. So we currently hold a +4 right now. We're tied in 8th place with a couple teams in the league. Buffalo is currently leading the league with +11. So with teams like the Jaguars, Titans, Seattle, and the Bucks twice on the schedule, we should be in good position to keep that up. We just need to do a better job. Our defense is doing a phenomenal job of getting takeaways. Our offense just needs to hold on to the ball a little bit better. Unfortunately, I think it's pretty even. I think I want to say I think we've coughed up the ball 7 times, fumbles, and I think Darnold's thrown 6 picks. And some of those picks are just not great passes. So Darnold, as far as interceptions are concerned, Darnold's got to do a better job of, if it's not there, make it look like it's going to get there, but make sure it's just not getting picked. But yeah, I have all the confidence in the world. All 3 of these are going to hit, which is like anything, we're going to have to wait and see. Lastly, before I let you guys go, want to give a quick shout out. Through the first 9 weeks, we don't have any ties in our pick'ems until you get to 11th place. Jay Husey, 77 picks, 1, is still holding currently steady in first with 950 points. Dagan is second with 880. Tate is third with 870. Andre the Giant's picks 1 is in fourth with 840. And Sam Puppy's picks 1, 5th place, 810. So huge congratulations to all you guys. And then lastly, I'm going to continue to talk about this every single week until, I don't know that I'll ever stop talking about it, but first touchdown challenge. So nobody got it right. We got $195 rolling into next week's game with the Jaguars. I know we're calling it the Vikings first touchdown challenge, but it's really the first touchdown challenge of the game. So it's not who you think the first Viking to get a touchdown will be. It's how do you think the first touchdown between the 2 teams will be scored. Now, I had some people reach out this last week because the first touchdown was an Indianapolis scoop and score, so it would have been very hard to guess that. Not a lot of probably people would have said Indianapolis defense scoop and score, or even specific. I think it was Elijah Mitchell, or no, Elijah Moore that got it. And a couple people reached out saying, so, does that one not count and it's the first, offensive one? No, it's the first one. And there were a couple people a little bit upset because they didn't realize that. And I understand that it's frustrating. But I'm telling you guys from the bottom of my heart, I'm not doing this to, be difficult. It's a fun thing to do. The first, I think, 4 or 5 weeks, people got it right. It makes it a little bit interesting. I know a couple people were, well, it's defensive and special team one shouldn't count. And that's part of the fun of it. If you look at the stats, I didn't look them up because it would have taken me literally forever to do it. But 9 games in, I'm willing to bet the first touchdown of at least 95% of games were a typical receiving touchdown or receiving or rushing touchdown. I'm sure 5% of the first touchdowns of the games were pick sixes or special plays like that. So it's not something that happens all that much. So just keep doing it. It's fun to do. Obviously, somebody this upcoming week hopefully is going to win a lot of money. $5 to win $195 rolling into the Week 10 matchup with the Jags. Once again, $5 in the description. Tell me how you think it's going to happen. Tell me if you think it's going to be a Harrison Smith pick 6. Tell me if you think it's going to be Tank Bixby. I don't even know half these guys on the Jaguars team anymore at this point, honestly. Let's go to, I'll give you, maybe that's what we should be doing the next couple weeks here. I should be telling you like the top guys on the Jags, the opponent's team. So if you think, obviously, if you're a Vikings fan, you should know a lot of Vikings guys. But if you think the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to get the touchdown, their top active receivers right now are Evan Ingram, Gabe Davis, Parker Washington, Brendan Strange. And if you think it's a rushing TD, Trevor Lawrence could do it. He's a quarterback. Or it could be Dearness Johnson, Travis Etienne, or Tank. No, wait. I think Tank and Travis Etienne are out. Yes. So tell me how you think it's going to happen. Excuse me. I got to get off here for you guys because I got to take care of this. But tell me how you think it's going to happen. And then winner gets their money back plus 195 plus whoever does it else this week. Venmo handle is down here or over here. Like I said, $5. Should be fun. And, I hope another handful of people win it this year, but who doesn't like the pot to get a little bit bigger too? So, yeah, like I said, Godspeed. Hope everybody has a fun week. And until next time, me.